See you, Bill. Tobiloba, welcome as well, my friend. Great to have you here. Mr. Rochelle. Mr. Rochelle.
What can you see? Because my
Where
house
are
is a
you?
mess.
I'm trying to bring you on stage. I think I brought you on stage. How are you, Mr. Rochelle? Let me talk to you quick. How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually. What can you see, you guys? Because my house is a mess, and
It's fine.
I'm sitting on the couch. So whatever.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm glad you're here. Look, I can't wax lyrical about your book enough. I really, I really not. So I argue. My wife is white. My son doesn't want to believe that all black people were not slaves. I'm saying they weren't. They just weren't. That's just wrong. And that's
Your son is right though. It's colonization. Um, it's it's so weird to hear you talk about the fact that you finished the book because that's why I found it so hard to tell people what the book was about. Because if you say what it's about, there's so many people that are going to prejudge it before they even read it. But everyone that's finished the book said, I didn't know half the stuff you're talking about. And now that I see it, I understand more.
yes. We can't unsee it. Now we've seen. Now you've shown us. All I keep saying to my son is he has the evidence to prove every point he makes. And our history is not of destitution, of being in poverty forever. It's just not.
It's not.
But it's been so well. I think that the bogeyman was so well built,
Yep.
especially on the black man's side. Anyway, that
Yeah.
is and the biology. It's erasure of history, erasure of incidents, erasure of places. But I said all of that. It's astonishing. But I think I love how you put it all together. And
One of
so,
the
go.
one of the biggest things, one of the biggest takeaways is, first of all, with the book that you read, it was ranked 4.7 out of 5 stars, which is great for a first book.
Mm,
The second one, volume 2, which is coming out August 18th, was rated 5 out of 5. And what you're going to learn from volume 2 is that the erasure of history is going on right now in America. So
yeah,
I don't know if you knew this, but, or do you know who Colin Powell is?
yeah. He was your chief of defense
Yep.
staff a few
So
years ago.
they took his name and all black names off of Arlington Cemetery, and it is still there, but you have to look for it. So they erased any like black history and then just put the name where it was. They went to a park, a national park, and they removed anything that dealt with black history.
Mm,
In Florida, they've removed and banned books written by some black authors, and they don't want to teach black history. And the history that we've been taught is the history that they wanted us to learn,
mm,
not the truth. When you think about it, and people need to really, 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 really get out of their heads and think about this shit. I mean, this um, where you're from is the wealthiest continent on earth. But what happened is people came in, they took your land, made your people work the land, and then took the money and brought it back to England. And then people were like, why can't they get it? Why is it so because all they did was make roads to the diamond mines and
mm.
back. They took whatever they wanted,
So
including our dignity.
you mentioned the Benin statues. I think that's what they are, right? And I grew up in Benin, amazingly. and Bendel State, Benin is the capital.
Well. First of all, I'm ignorant, so I said continent. so, so I don't know where nothing is. I just know I just know that technically, I know these two things: that Africa is the only continent that is still rooted within the earth. Every other continent is not attached to the earth. And Africa has more natural resources, gold, diamonds, uranium, than oil, any other continent in the world. And all of those resources have been taken. Imagine if they hadn't been taken and the people that own that land were able to monetize that for themselves and give it back. They refuse to let you go and get educated. They refuse. I mean, there's a whole thing. But through all of it, and people are like, why are you so like pro-black? You know what? I'm yellow as hell, right? I can say anything, but I'm a black man.
We all think that, Bill. We all think Bill's as white as they come, but you're not. I know you're not.
Yeah. I'm a black man, and I'm proud of that because our history is that of resilience, because our music guides the world, our style influences other cultures, our dance is imitated by other people, and you look at it, and you know, they want to call us savages and thugs and everything else, but we are not walking into school shooting them up.
No,
not one of us.
Never done. Not a single black person has ever done that.
No,
that's what I learned from you, which is like, wow, really? You know, look, Bill, I think we need to do a show to talk about your book from the way I see it. You know, I'd love to do that. Really, I don't know why you would love to too. You know,
I would love to too. And what was so hard, Innie, is because if you talk about it, because it starts at the very beginning, and people are like, "Okay, this is another slavery book." No, it's not.
It really isn't. It really isn't. It's a history book. No, it's a history book, which is
and there's so much more because I left out the history that most people know about.
Wow.
You know.
We'll do a show and talk about your book.
But I think let's talk about you and the collaborator and why y'all fell out.
Yes. You want to talk about that? Oh, what we're here for?
Yeah.
let me minimize your screen. Let me welcome Dr. Lisa Tobiloba, of course. Thank you for being here. LinkedIn user, I don't know. Great points as always. I love you. I'm sure I do. I don't know who it is, though. That's a big problem, right? So hopefully, you know, put your name in the comments. If I don't dare look at my LinkedIn because I might crash my system. I might suddenly not be here anymore, right? Dr. Lisa, thank you for being here. LinkedIn user again. Hi, Bill. So what do you know about the portraits? All right, let's leave that for now. So I really want to have a proper chat with Bill and say, right, let's talk about the points you raised. Let's talk about the Black experience as it has been, and all that, all that's happened to us that's been written in this book. You know, our history has been erased, edited, just deleted at best of times, which is shocking. You know, and we know nothing about it at all. You know, I'm like, wow. Anyway, I could talk to Bill all day about his book. Let's leave that for a second, right?
Yeah, because this is your show, and I came on to talk about the collaboration and want to know why you made that man mad.
Right. You know, Paulette, I see you too. Welcome. This is my first real show, any show since my holiday for 2 weeks. So I feel a bit weird, but I love having all you all here. I really do. And I'm loving at least being where I am, doing what I do best, right? Michael, welcome, my friend. I don't know your LU. That's LinkedIn user. I thought that was your initials, but obviously not. Okay, welcome, Michael. So collaborations. I say again, if you want to join us in the studio, my friends, you're more than welcome. Tobiloba, I'm going to come to you in a second. Look, we've all fallen out badly with people. I have too, right? Now, I was talking about my breakdown with Dr. Ava. So suddenly there was a post put up that Any's something, Any's some, you know how it goes, an accusation goes, and Any's thinking, do I respond? Do I let it go? My friends, some of my friends are like, you have to respond. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not gonna. There's no point having a public argument over nothing. It's over something. It's over nothing. No one's gonna win, right? But then I had to respond in the end, but I didn't respond in public. And I think I messaged our authors and said, right, here's what's going on. Here's what's really happened, and we will solve it somewhere. But either way, you're going to get your book, because your bold idea must carry on, even when the collaboration blows up in your face. And let me say this very quickly before we carry on. What I've learned in life, Bill, is a lesson that all group books will lead to a breakdown in relationships. Every collaborative book will lead to a fallout. And I've seen over and over and over different authors, different publishers, different writers. But it always ends with some people walking off in a huff saying, you've done this to me, you've done that to me. And who knows? But the friends who started the project never finished projects together. I'm not saying the book doesn't get published. I'm saying by the end, the publisher is not talking to certain authors. So certain authors not talking to each other. I could carry it. I'm saying that something goes wrong in the process. If you're going to do a group book, my friends, prepare yourself for that one, right? But look, I think there's a way that we can end relationships. Many of us would just ghost people. Literally, I'm not talking to you anymore. That's it. And then no response forevermore. That's not a good way to end the relationship. It doesn't help anyone, right? And I think I'll end here and come to you, Tobiloba, to share about your collaboration experiences, right? Look, when we have informal collaborations, which is what most of us do, we can end those, almost without thinking too much. I still say think very hard, because these are important people in your life. But in a business collaboration, in a partnership, for example, this person owns half your business, at least. They are half the work, they're half the brains, they're half the everything, they have the everything that comes into it. Lovely dog you had. I'm always jealous of your dog, Bill. Anyway, I'm saying, so you can't just walk away from a business partnership just like that.
What dog?
What's beside you? I can see it. That big thing.
This is my blanket.
Really? I thought the dog walking around. Okay.
No, my dog's way over there. There's something walking around.
Your blanket was moving because you were moving, right?
Oh yeah, my knee. Sorry.
Cool. Right. Anyway, look, I say now, if you are in a formal business relationship, a partnership, how are you going to end it? Because, like I say, this person owns half your business, half your assets. It's their business too. Are you just going to walk away? Are you gonna let them just walk away? I mean, what if you have costs? They say these are part of the conversation I want to have today. How do we end these relationships amicably? There is a way. There is a way. I'm going to show you a video that pretty much gets across my points. But of course, I'm going to dig at people. I dig at us to think about certain things that we tend to do out of hand, out of spite. So let's not do those things. Is the point I want to make. Go on, Bill. I see you raise your hand.
No, I was saying, yeah, I do that all the time.
I'm glad you're so honest, my friend. Mr. Tobiloba, how are you doing, my brother? How are you doing, my brother? How's life with you? You're still muted. I don't know what the text going to get you today. Nat, I see you. Of course, I see you, Nat. I'm glad you're here. Tobiloba, come back. Oh no, it hasn't happened. Okay. When you're on mute, then I'll happily let you speak, my friend. So I'm glad you're here, though. And keep trying. Whatever happens, keep trying. So, Bill, collaborations. Talk to me. Your thing or not your thing?
So collaborations are important, especially in business.
Yes.
Especially in business. And it's key to the success of a business when it is a joint effort, I think you have to have clearly defined goals and clearly defined expectations.
Yes.
I never go into business with friends ever. It ruins it. It's almost like becoming roommates with your best friend. You just stop speaking. It's too personal. But I have seen situations where two friends came in to collaborate and they both had different visions. And eventually one of them had to be removed from the company.
Mm.
And we did that because the person became the face of the company, which meant that he was doing all these PR tours, and he was on Dateline and on, this TV show, and he's been called all the time to be in on the news stations. And he started believing that he was bigger than the brand, that he got the brand intermixed with him. So from an investor standpoint and a co-founder standpoint, there was a discussion to remove him. Now, being removed and remaining friends, I think that needs to be an intentional decision. So if Annie and I are collaborating on something and it just doesn't work out, it cannot work out, and we can be intentional about still supporting each other and still connecting. But if one person ghosts the other person, or if there's no agreement of understanding about why certain things transpired, I think that makes it more difficult. So I always fight for, in everything that I do, 100% transparency. This is how you're making me feel. This is the effect that it has on the business. And how do we get through this together so that we can release this book and then separate ways, part ways? But it sounds like you guys couldn't do that. I hate it when he puts me on full screen and then I got all this shit behind me.
It's in the way, Bill. Emotions is always what brings everyone down in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the point you make, I think, is more than valid in that sometimes you have to fire your partner. Or you literally actually sack them. There's no other way around it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's when we start doing the strange things that I'm hoping we'll learn to avoid by watching today's show, that we can have that potential, a possibility to be amicable, to still be friends.
Yeah.
So, but people take it. We take things so personally. I think that's the number one problem. We take it all very personally, and then I think it's not just collaborations, but I think this is all relationships, right? Even your personal, your
Absolutely.
partner relationships, where acrimony raises ugly head, you're doomed. Where you hate the other person, there's nowhere else to go. We need to stop ourselves hating because something's happened. So I think we need to be able to accept that what's happened. Yes, it is irreversible. And yes, we have to separate. It doesn't mean that we have to hate each other. It just means we have to just make a decision today that serves the business, that serves the mission. Don't forget, at the back of all of my conversation today is the what if and your bold idea. You're not going to go on, please.
I believe that time heals things too.
I agree.
So I've had situations where I didn't have partners, but I gave people a piece of my business
Yep.
because they were so instrumental in getting that business to where it was. I said, you know what, you own 5% and you own 5%. And when the business went under due to COVID, everyone takes everyone hits the person at the top. Like, why didn't you plan for this? There's no way to plan for this. So it took us a while, but we speak to that. They've asked me for a reference. People get into their feelings over business, and especially when you're fucking around somebody's money. People. I'm sorry, Annie, if my language is too much for you.
No,
Um,
I'm easy, so I talk normally when I'm not on screen.
yeah, when you're messing with someone's money, there's a whole other level. But you know what? There's someone else here, and I'm gonna, I got my little kidney thing, so I'll be here. I'm just gonna run. I'll come right back.
Awesome, my friend. Awesome. Look, please do. Right. Tobiloba, are you able to talk? No, I still don't see you're muted. Maybe it's my screen. Okay, right. So why Tobiloba and Bill work themselves out? When I keep mentioning the things you don't want to do, Paulette, I agree with you. Good mediation definitely helps. And no one's bigger than the brand for sure, Paulette. Of course not. I say this is why I say that you must remember at the back of your mind in today's conversation that the mission, the brand must continue. Whenever I've fallen out with people in my business, staff included, it's I tell them, I just tell them straight. There's two things that can't change in this business. One is a mission. The people we're here to serve. The second thing that can't change is me. So guess what? You're gonna have to go. End of. Right. Now to the rest of your points, Paulette. I think it is ultimately more sensible to create agreements in our collaborations. As Bill said, don't work with friends. I'm not quite that extreme, because I want to work with friends. I want to work with people that I get on with, that who are friends. That's
There's a difference between friends and your network. What I mean when I say don't work with friends, I'm not going to work with friends that I've known for like 30 years that like pull me on the carpet and tell me about how, like, no.
Why not?
I need to have a certain amount of control, and they know, they know that, they don't want to work for me. And I've had that problem all my life. I've gone to dinner with friends, and they're like, "We are not your employees." So
I can see where you're coming from on that one. But still, I think we do the best work when we are friends. Really, I do. I hear what you're saying, Bill. So some people say that never work with friends who don't even say, don't serve them, don't sell to them, don't. But why would I say? Why would I do that? I want to come to Michael's point. Michael makes a good point. I can't show all of it on screen, sadly, Michael. It says, that's sad. There's a sad mentality to have, not going to business with friends or family. Family, maybe. I think when you think of family, I start seeing what you mean, Bill. Because I'm going to have to fire you one day, potentially. And I'm going to fire you.
yeah.
And you're still my favorite sister, by the way. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to fire you, right? Well, as Michael says, Trump's whole family proves that this theory doesn't fit everyone. The Rockefellers are saying the reality is friends or families have differences Let me try and find where when in conversations that lead to starting a business. They do. The two must put in practice the King James versus acknowledgement acknowledge of implementing a threefold chord to the two. You need a mediator that shows no partiality between the two friends, as Paulette said, and also, family. So, to friends, family, to see, it can, I know, it can and does work, especially when egos are checked at the door. I hear you. I say you have a good point there, Michael. It can be done. Maybe Bill and I are just too childish. Let's admit it.
But you make a great point. Everyone that I've worked with have become like family, have become friends, and that's why we still speak today.
Yeah.
But what I think what I'm talking about is the friends that you grew up with, the friends that don't understand that you are in a position where you need to keep everything equal across all channels, or you can be sued.
Yeah.
You can't talk to me like that on the floor. We're not at the basketball court right now.
Yeah.
And I actually hired my cousin because she needed a job. And I flew her out here. She's in DC. I flew her out here. She went through the training. She stayed with me. And then she's like, I hate this job. I could be making more in DC. I'm like, why did you come? Because I think that you need an assistant. I didn't hire you to be my assistant. You can't come in here and then say you think I need an assistant and I need you to pay you twice as much when I have people that have been working for me for like 6 years, 7 years. That's not going to fly. Family or not, they're going to be looking. My team that has helped grow this business is going to be looking at me sideways. I done brought you in, gave you an honorary title. You're in DC and I'm paying you twice as much as everybody else. No. I think when you're working with family and friends, real, and I'm talking about real, like people that you go on vacations with and spend your holidays with, there's a whole different expectation. And I would rather have given her money and help support her while she got back on her feet than to have had her come down here and waste the dollars of the company for the training, my money flying her out here, and then have her go back home and just say, it's not for me. I'm done. But if you ever need an assistant, I'm here for you. Girl, that's not why I hired you. That wasn't the agreement.
Yeah. I totally look, I understand where you're coming from. I guess maybe it's where you start in your partnership. I'm more interested in the mission and my business and me, really. And I will fire anyone. I've done it many times. I fire everyone because
you
they're
can
not.
Stop saying that.
No, I think ultimately it's decisions you have to make, Bill. That's the point I'm trying. That's what I take from you, right? Michael says it's too harsh. Natalie, I'm going to come to you next. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Yes, it's too harsh. As Michael says. Miss Margaret, Superwoman, so one of my co-authors who experienced she didn't experience a fallout. Margaret came in after our fallout in the book. I chose to change from the 6 authors to 10 authors. So I brought some of my friends in. Even then, we still fell out after a while. No, me and Superwoman Margaret, of course not tonight. Say there's others who they just will respond to my messages, Bill. I'll get over it, right? I'm glad you're here, Margaret. Levine, I haven't seen you for a while. How are you? It feels like a long time. Now, that's why I wish I invited you today, because I haven't seen her for so long. I wonder what she's up to. Look, I think that there's a place to say, if you are in with friends or family, you need those agreements even more to formalize a relationship. And agreements, they can be as complicated as you want to make them, or as simple as you want to make them. What's a mission? what's our roles? I'm just saying some of the things. This is not a legal document I'm going to create for you. I'm saying, but what's our roles? How do we? Who owns what? In terms of what's the level of power and authority? How do we decide things? And ultimately, if we have to split up, what happens next? Do you take your intellectual property with you? No, my dad. If I paid you, no, of course not. The business, my mission must survive. I must get to the end of my mission, right? My book must be written. My creation must come to life, with or without you. And just think what could go wrong in all of that. If your partner leaves and starts a business similar to yours, I'll shoot you. Well, legally, you have to tie it down and say you can't do that. I'll say it's all of that we have to think about when it comes to creating legal documents. Or none of us create legal documents, Bill. We never do. We rely on expectations. Expectations, as Cyrus tells us, is essentially the seeds for disaster. Because what we don't say or write down is what it will break us up in the end. Anyway, let's talk to Natalie. Natalie, how are you? You're still muted, Nat. Let's have Restream will work. Natalie, are you there? Damn. See, this is tech today, Bill. It's so hard.
It's not tech. See, you talk so much that people walk away. She's probably like over there getting a salad, and then you calling on her.
Okay, all right. I gave her a warning, didn't I? I said I want to come to you next, Natalie. Anyway, Cyrus is here. I'm not talking. I'm just gonna let Cyrus talk. Cyrus, where are you? Are you here? Cyrus is backstage. Add Cyrus to screen. Yeah, we'll press the button twice.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Hello. Yes, he is here.
Hi. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, William. How's it going, Annie?
All right. How are you doing?
Not bad, thank you so much. So regarding the topic, walking away from a broken down collaborative relationship. When that happens, which has happened to me before, when that happens, with me, most of the time it's been like amicable, and there was no, it wasn't high octane like the one you talked about earlier, Annie. And when that happens, people just they may not realize, but they find themselves in a position that me and you would refer to as self-preservation. They feel like it's life and death. They say things they don't normally say. They do things they normally don't do, and they say things that they regret later, thinking, "Oh, why did I say that? It's not like me to say things like this, or it's not like me to do things like this." It is most of it is a matter of ego, because people feel like, "Oh yeah, I've been disrespected," or I have been dealt with in an unfair way, which is sometimes the case as well. Yeah. So the main thing is, the main thing to remember when stuff like that happens is to, let's say it's a game, like we were when we were children. So I brought in 10 Legos, you brought into 10 Legos, and then our parents called us, and then we had to go back home for lunch, and everybody would have to take their Legos back home, just make sure the other person gets their 10 Legos, you get your 10 Legos, so it would be fair for everybody. Because one of the things that is not focused on is your client and the other person's clients, and all you're focused on is that, "Oh, you disrespected me," or "You breached this contract," or "You did this, you said that." So the real victim is your service users. So because collaboration is usually between two businesses and two people who are more often than not are getting remunerated for the process, because of the process, right? So the main focus needs to remain the customers, because those customers, whether they are the other party's customers or your customers, they're going to be wondering what on earth is happening here, right? You need to solve your problems off the platform and be the happy people you are when you're dealing with us. We don't want to be dealing with angry or annoyed service providers. So, well, in my case, when that happened, the other person was suffering with the shiny objects syndrome, right? So, look at that, that's shiny. Oh, look at this, that's shiny. So they weren't focused. So, regardless of the reasons, when that relationship breaks down, right, the best thing would be to just hear them out, find out what their demands are, what their requests are. Just tell them, just ask for 24 hours, 48 hours time, for two reasons. One, so you can be fairly and squarely checking what needs to be done, and secondly, you don't want to make any rash decisions, because business and making rash decisions don't mix, right? So just ask for 24 hours, 48 hours, I don't know, 72 hours. Ask for a little bit of time so you can reconsider, so you can find out what we can do, what you can do to amicably break away from them, right? So a amicable and clean break. So obligations need to be sorted out. Client list, the content, right? Who's getting what exactly? So when that happens, adding fuel to the fire is not going to be helpful. What really is helpful is making a list. So when that happens, start making your list, the list of your requests and the list of the other person's obligations, right? And yours. That helps you and the other party to have a clean break and just go unscathed completely, and that helps you with saving your business's face as well, because you don't want to be seen like brawling in public. You want to be seen that you're a business person going about your business as normal. But yeah, there are times that a conflict happens, and not everyone's good at conflict resolution, right? When that happens, just find a mutual friend, and the other party can do the same as well. So find a mutual friend to represent you, and they can find a mutual friend to represent them, and that gives you and the other party a little bit of space. How do we get that space? If I'm in your face, Annie, there's no space between us. I take 2 steps back, you take 2 steps back, and all of a sudden there's something between us called space. And you don't make it complicated. If you need space, you don't have to call NASA to get some space. Just take a step back, right? The other person takes a step back, and then you can consider the possibilities of reconciling or perhaps a clean break. Yeah, thank you. I'll be listening. Annie, I think you are on mute, my friend.
I'm sure you can hear me now, right? You know,
Yes,
so we're here now, right? Marlene, how you doing? Marlene is Marlene a collaboration? No, possibly. Well, we're going to publish Marlene's books, so maybe it's not such a collaboration on that level. So, but no, we might have to work towards creating more books. That's why I'm mulling over whether we have a collaboration or a client, contractor relationship, which I think is what we have on the main. But Cyrus, look, I think you're dead right when you say your customers are the focus. They have to be. Your bold ideas about your customers. That's exactly what it's all about. Your customers are everything, and I will sell anything. I will sell my soul to serve my customers. That means I'll sell you too, by the way, my friend.
At least you're honest about it.
Not really, man. I literally, I'm all right until I think someone's disrespecting or risking my customers. That's what I tend to flip. And when I flip, they're like, you're not like this normally. I'm like, oh well, I am now. But maybe we always have been. You talked about, how people are, deep down. I think some people are just like me. They have their thing. They have their red line. Maybe I think that I've already talked about expectations before. Unspoken expectations, Cyrus. That's the root of all wars, right? So it's look. I think when you talk about these sort of things, I want to make sure we put down on paper, and also having thinking time. I think and maybe a mediator, as Paul said at the beginning, right? I think these are useful things to consider and plan for. Document them, especially when it comes to the assets, the obligations, your demands and requests. Interesting, Cyrus. I'll come back to those in a minute. I want to hear from Natalie because you've made the effort to be here more than once, Nat. Maybe you're making your sandwich, as Bill said, right? You made your sandwich, I hope. How you doing, Nat?
Hello, Ellie. How are you?
Hi.
How is everybody? Hi.
Hi, Natalie. How's it
You're
going?
here. Go, Cyrus. So you're here. That cheers me up, Nat. So I'm so glad you're here. What's your take, Nat? What's your experience of collaborations that have gone south?
We're the guinea pigs for reciprocal impact partnership, because you don't always have to have a financial investment directly in each other to support each other on our respective journeys. And you and I, as you would attest, we've both had our differences, yeah. So, and we've managed. I think we've managed to be quite adult about our differences. I think, but I'm interested to see what you think.
I think,
and I would like you to feel happy to do that.
I'm a terrible human when it comes to the unwritten, the unspoken expectations, Natalie. This is what we're experiencing. Natalie wants me to be an engaged partner, and I'm just like, Nat, I'm not thinking about that. I'm doing this. You do you. But that's under our umbrella.
And okay. I fully respect that, and I'm also aware that Eni took it upon himself to make sure I was in this partnership back in 2024, and I took that like a champ, because I didn't even realise I was in it until the August. And yeah, at first I was taken aback, and then once I had a moment to think about it, with the assistance of Mrs. Paulette Hallam and Cyrus Kafash, I recognised it for what it was. It was a subtle acknowledgement of my own skills and a gentle, I guess, a gentle request that we work together. So I took it in the manner that I think you intended it, and obviously Paulette and Cyrus thought you might have intended it at the time too.
Natalie, to be a better person. I'll say that, right? I think we all are, and I will get better. So like I say, I appreciate my childish nature at times. Is it childish? I'm just focused on my stuff, right? I hear what you're saying, Max.
I know, Eni, I get it. I'm also intellectually gifted and creative, according to a lot of people, and sometimes I get hyper focused, and so I can completely understand that when you find something that you love, that you will lose focus of the time, everything just blends into the background. You're in your flow. And
Yep.
that's why I've stuck around and worked through our differences that we have had over the last couple of years, because
Yeah.
we've both got similar goals. And that's why I imagine you approached me about the Impact Partnership in the first place, with us co-hosting and you know, like co-promoting and so forth, and creating safe spaces for all of us to engage in this way. And you're my mentor. You, Cyrus, and Paulette and Islam are my podcasting mentors. So I hold quite high esteem for you.
But
Likewise.
I think she just said it right there, though, Annie. You guys have similar goals,
Mm.
and that's important when you're partnering with someone, that you do have similar goals.
I agree, 100%. I agree 100%. I feel like, as Alavini is saying in the comments, I know you're on stage, Alavini. If you can unmute, feel free to share the comment you just made. As you're saying, you have to have good build boundaries, have strong boundaries from the beginning. And I think we underestimate what these boundaries look like. Now, boundaries are not necessarily walls. Boundaries can be the enablers, because it says very clearly what I commit to do, what you commit to do, how we're going to work together. So I can't stress the need for some sort of documentation enough. I think we need those, but we don't create those documentations. This is my point, right? We literally assume the other person would know. Even our work processes are different. I'm saying we're humans are inherently different. And somehow in collaborations, we hope and pray that by magic, we're going to find mutuality in everything we do. We're not going to find mutuality in everything we do. I don't think we are. If anyone thinks otherwise, feel free to let me know why you think so.
Can I please express
Of course.
express my gratitude for what Natalie just mentioned. Thank you, Natalie. I'm glad a conversation that we had in 2024 helped you. This shows me that people remember how you make them feel, right? That's proof. I always teach that in my marketing and sales lessons, in my live events. So it is important to treat people with respect, and then just help them solve a teeny tiny problem, and they will reciprocate. And to be fair, I couldn't remember that conversation in 2024. I'm still struggling to remember what I had for breakfast earlier today. I'm glad that that helped you, Natalie. And in my experience, most of the problems are between people of same level of experience. Marketers, salespeople of the same level of experience. Most of it comes from the similarity with the way they think, and when they are too similar, then they are dissimilar. That's when some of the so they always say opposites attract, but that's not always the case, right? But the most important thing is, regardless of differences and similarities, is your capability. This is a capability, right? The capability to let it go, right? Sometimes you win an argument, but you lose a friend. What's the point of that's not a win, right? That is not a win. Sometimes you lose a relationship, but you win an argument, right? And that is a very, very costly victory, right? So imagine you win a war, you have 100 soldiers, the other person has 100 soldiers, you kill all those 100 soldiers, and then you look behind you and you see only 3 remaining soldiers of your side. So that is a very costly battle, right? And there's no winners, by the way. By the end of it, there are no winners. So when you look back, and the only win that you can see is those days that you had collaborations with that person and you had mutual understanding, right? And some of some of the onus of the problem is on my shoulder as well. When I don't express myself clearly, as they say, unspoken expectations is premeditated resentment. So with every lack of every failure on your part to clarify something, you are contributing to that lack of understanding and lack of accord between you and the other party. You had the chance, so it's your fault as much as it is theirs. You had the chance, you had the opportunity for the whole duration of relationship to clarify stuff, and it's not just their fault. And if you look back and find out, oh, it was a little bit my fault as well, that means the breakage of that relationship turns you into a stronger and better person. If you turn around and say, oh, it was all their fault, I don't think much learning has happened there, at least not on your part. Understanding that there are two, it takes two to tango, it really helps for the next relationship, because we go from one collaboration to the next, don't we?
Yeah, no, Cyrus, I think, look, you and Natalie, of course, have an important point. Thank you for sharing your quotes. And I think it's a very important quote for us to bear in mind. Unspoken expectations is premeditated resentment. That is so important. What we don't say, we expect, in the end, is going to bring everyone down, right? That's half the problem, But I think now there is a conversation maybe around collaboration. Does that mean equal work, equal effort, equal and working on the same with the same method? Of course not. Now, if you work with me, get used to me being get used to me being, as you say, Cyrus. Our similarities end up being our differences, which is a strange thing to say, right? I think you got a point there for sure. Being a team doesn't mean that we're going to do the same amount of work at the same time. We're just not. I think we have to understand each other. To this point, we have to understand and accommodate how the other person works and thinks and does what they and just be, right? And I think these are important things. Look, our time is going. We've been here for a while now, right? I want to go through a couple of things before we go, because I've got to go and do my daddy run school now, exercise run again. I get to drive my car first time in weeks. Right, Marcus mentions the ability to hear. Maybe the one thing everyone's talked about today is the need to talk, communicate. Right? We agree, I'm sure. Right, I can see you, Bill. I can't see the other two. Collaborators must talk. If we can't talk, we're in trouble. We can't even work together. If we're not talking, if we can't communicate, I don't know whether we have anything at all between us. Because what? No. Talking is everything, right? I'm leading somewhere with this, my friends. There's something called phrases that kill collaborations because they kill conversations. Let's go through a few of these. I'd love to know your thoughts. So, just feel free to pipe up. So I'm sure, if you speak, then the rest of us will listen for a second and then give you time to make your points, right? So, I said that there's 9 main conversation killers that we need to avoid in the conversations that we have with a collaboration partner. Here goes. The first one, let's agree to disagree. Does that ever work? Can we disagree strongly in a collaboration and then agree to just leave that disagreement to hang? What do you think? What do you think? Please, don't be shy. Bill, because I can see you. Can we agree to disagree?
I think that there's a caveat to that, and I think that we can agree to disagree and still love each other. But if we're in business, and I've done this many times, behind closed doors, we can have a knockdown, drag out argument. But when we leave that office and we go back out to the floor or to the customers or to your clients, as you say, we have to be in alignment. So we can agree to disagree, but this is the decision we're making moving forward. And that's the part that you're leaving out. So we can agree to disagree, but one of us has to make the decision that this is final and this is where we're going. We cannot agree to disagree in a collaboration and you're working this way and I'm working this way. That's not going to work.
No, it's 100%. Natalie, if you got a thought, feel free. Cyrus, of course. And I think, I agree with you entirely. We need to find alignment. We need to find a common ground, an agreement. We can't agree to disagree. We have to agree. How about that?
Well, I would replace that with a more helpful phrase, and I would reframe it by saying, well, I think we should focus on what we agree on, and then it is there and then that you should bring the other person's point to their attention. That means I heard you. But if you just say let's agree to disagree, that in and of itself could be misconstrued as some sort of passive aggressiveness, right? So let's agree to disagree. That is very dismissive. It can be misconstrued as a dismissive thing. And if I told you let's agree to disagree, that means I'm dismissing you in an extremely polite manner. But if you qualify with, just like Bill said, if you qualify with something else, like completed, because if you leave it as it is, it's just means nothing. But if you say let's agree to disagree, however, I agree with that point, so you are in a way counterbalancing it.
Yeah, I hear you. I think again, I think it's accepting the concept that there are conversation killers, and to say let's agree to disagree is a conversation killer. It stops conversation stone dead. You give us nowhere to go. You're saying I don't want to hear any more from you, and that's it. It's not resolved. You just I don't want to hear any more from you. Full stop. That's why it's such a harmful thing to say in a conversation with your collaboration partner. Let's avoid things like that. That's why I say, right? So another thing that people say in these heated conversations is, oh, it's too late. It's too late to whatever. It's too late to do something else. It's too late to talk about this. It's too late to fix this problem. And again, what do you think? Is that a reasonable conversation? Is that a reasonable line to come up with? What's the danger of saying it's too late? Again, I guess the danger I see there is that you're saying there's one way, that's my way, and everything else is, it's not important. I can't be bothered to think of anything else, an alternative. It's too late. I've decided. So a lot of us would think this is helpful in a conversation, but it's not. It really isn't. It is a conversation killer. If you're going to use this sort of terms, you're going to just end the conversation, and then your partner's going to go away more annoyed, more disgruntled than when you started the conversation. Natalie, your internet is in my internet. I don't know. Say, but thank you for keep trying. For sure. Anyway, it's never too late. If we're genuine partners, we'll find a way to have the conversation and agree how we're going to move forward. I said there's 9 of these. I'll put the link to the document in the comments, and let's see what feel free to have a read and then see whether you want to share some of your thoughts on the points that the article makes that kills conversation. Look, I know our time is going. I don't know whether my wife is going to try and get our kid. She may have done. I can smell food, which technically she hasn't, but I'll work with that in good time. Now, I want to make this easier. So there's a very easy way to tackle on to end collaborations. We've mentioned some of the points already. You know, we need to talk. We need to have agreements. You know. Bill, come back. Feel free. Otherwise, just watch the video, Bill. Watch the video. So I want to show a video. Say literally a couple of minutes long, and I think it's a very good way to look at how to end, you know, these collaborations that must come to an end. You know, and what you're gonna see, that it doesn't say let's have an argument. It doesn't say let's blame someone. It doesn't say let's go online and spread negativity. Let's do a post about that where we're venting. You know, let's express our anger in public. That's not how it's done. Bill's mentioned it many times. In private, we'll talk properly. In public, we'll do something else. But please, we'll watch the video, and then if you want to discuss it afterwards, feel free. Here it goes. Here it goes.
In from Alice in Cleveland, Ohio. How's it going, Alice?
Video play.
Hey, Christy, doing well. How are you doing?
Good. What's going on? How can I help?
So, first of all, thank you so much for all of your strategies and how tactical you get in equipping women to make money doing what they love.
Thank you.
I've been using...
In from Alice in Cleveland, Ohio. How's it going, Alice?
Hey, Christy.
I'm going to show it, then decide not to show.
In from Alice in Cleveland, Ohio. How's it going, Alice?
Hey, Christy, doing well. How are you doing?
Good. What's going on? How can I help?
So, first of all, thank you so much for all of your strategies and how tactical you get in equipping women to make money doing what they love.
Thank you.
I've been using your strategies for a few years now to help grow a nonprofit organization. And the question I have for you is, could you give some strategies, etiquette strategies on ending business relationships without burning bridges when the season of working with that business partner has just come to an end?
Sure. Okay. Give me as much context as you're comfortable with. So I can have a little bit more, like, what type of business relationship is it? Is it a partner? Is it a client?
It would be a partner, someone that you've worked with, to perhaps a learning management partner who has managed your online learning efforts, and then they're just it's not working out for them to continue doing that in a way that your business, that it's still profitable for your business.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you a really simple answer. It's almost going to sound too simple, Alice, but I'll tell you, this has helped me make decisions in every aspect of my life, from business to personal. Just simply live by the golden rule. Treat others as you would want to be treated. So I'll give you some tactical ways that you do that. Share your heart. Show gratitude. Start the conversation with, thank you so much for all you've done. We've been able to do XYZ because of your investment, because of this relationship. You know, we've seen this growth and so on. And then you transition and say, I feel our season is changing. I feel like we're going in a new direction. Here's kind of the why. And again, you end with appreciation. Thank you so much for all you've done, that type of thing. So, but if you do it with grace, if you do it with class, if you do it with appreciation, if you treat others as you would want to be treated in any capacity that you're able to, be generous. If there's, I don't know what the transaction or relationship looks like, but when possible, be generous. It will make that tough news a little bit easier to hear, and it will make them really respect you by the way in which you went about it. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's very helpful. Do you suggest this be in, and this is tactical here, letter format?
No.
Email?
No,
snail
in person.
mail?
In person. You got to face it, Alice. I know, but they will respect you so much more. If not in person, then on the phone, certainly. But you miss tone in emails and text. You want to hear, let them hear your heart. Let them hear your heart, and they will hear that in the tone. In person, it'll be tough, but you'll be glad you did it.
That was fantastic.
I like that. It sounds like you like it too, Cyrus.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. Again, I think all the points are there. See, I think the thing that's always missing when our collaborations die is the conversation. No one wants to talk to. Everyone's too angry to talk to anyone. You know, apart from those involved anyway. They talk to everyone else. You know, apart from your partner, really. And You know, again, Stanley Green always talks about emotional regulation. You know, we need to learn to calm down and have the conversation. You know, and in that conversation, we normally find a way forward. You know, as I said, the conversation is not about blame. It's not about those words, those phrases that kill the conversation. You know, it's approaching the end with as much love as when we started. Yeah, I just said that. I like that. I like that, Cyrus.
That's
Approach the
lovely.
end,
Yeah.
you know, with the same love that we started this relationship. You know, and that will get us everywhere. Maybe our end has come today, but tomorrow there might be somewhere else that we can do great work together and to serve more people, right? Because don't forget that need to serve more people, that want to serve more people, still exists. You know, our qualities that we bring to the relationship still exist, and they can still create magic. Cyrus,
Also,
please.
Also, I want to say this as well, just to make the conversation more realistic and less hypothetical. I wanted to say, if someone, as an example, if someone's stolen money from you, or has stolen clients from you, or has treated you unfairly, expecting you to apply these principles and not getting angry and not feeling disappointed is a little bit unrealistic. However, there is a massive however there. Remember, not burning bridges should be the first thing that you're going to do. After that, you need to remember, people make mistakes, right? When a friend makes a mistake, the friend remains a friend and the mistake remains a mistake. I'm going to say that again. When a friend makes a mistake, the friend remains a friend and mistake remains a mistake. Just try to be a little bit more understanding, more forgiving. Imagine if it was you doing that. You might turn around and say, well, I don't do that kind of stuff. Yes, I understand. That's a difference. And you are the difference maker. Well done. However, people make mistakes, right? And there's another thing you need to focus on is that your clients and the rest of the community are looking at you. How are you going to be heavy-handed, or are you going to be dealing with the matter with finesse? Are you going to use finesse, or are you going to be dealing with the matter crudely, right? Because we are on this planet for a while and then we're not, right? The same thing happened to people before us, right? They were on this planet and now they're not. So what really remains is a memory of you and the things you did and the things you said. We just witnessed that on this live event. Natalie just was happy about a conversation in 2024. Exactly when I was trying to remember what I had for breakfast this morning, right? People remember things, right? People remember how you treat them, right? They may forget how to treat you. What they remember how you treated them. That's the weird nature of human beings. We are all the same. We are all more similar than we are different, right?
100% true.
Yeah. So not being heavy-handed when you're dealing with the other person, when communication, when the collaboration comes to an end, it doesn't mean communication has to come an end. It's just a collaboration, right? It's just business, right? So and it's just a transaction. It's a collaboration, right? No matter how much lovey-dovey you are with the other person, it's a transaction. Okay, it's transactional. You are collaborating. It's called a collaboration for a reason, right? You put some, you and the other person put two together and then create something, right? Go to Any's YouTube channel. You find lots of them. Go to my YouTube channel. You'll find lots of them. We collaborate with other people, right? That's how we are social beings. We are humans, right? We can't live just in our heads. Okay, we live in a community,
Okay.
and that community could be the size of community differs. Someone with a scale of any relationships could be as big as Australia, America, the United Kingdom, Africa, all over the place. In my case, it's mostly United Kingdom and the United States. So the size of the relationship, right, dictates how big your collaborative head is, right? So you should always have more collaborations in the pipeline, right? Because one of the things that makes people angry about ending collaborations is the prospect of not having a new one coming up, right?
Yeah.
That makes people angry, and they're like, "Oh, you're leaving me high and dry," and I didn't expect this, right? So that means either you or they have been in a frame of mind which told them, "Oh, this will be forever." No collaboration is forever. Nothing
agree.
is forever. Look at the presidents; they only last 4 years,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Look at prime ministers; they only last 4 to 6 years, right? So look at kings; they're only there for like 20, 30, 40 years, right?
So
Like
that, yes.
the Queen of
Yeah.
England, who's the longest serving monarch, served for 70 years, and that was it, right? So it's finite, it's limited, regardless of the length of the time, right? So remember, when you start a collaboration, remember this could come to an end. Don't get angry, don't get disappointed.
No, I think that's a very important point, Cyrus. You know, a lot of people never think about the end, but the end is inevitable. It's the only thing that's written into our collaboration. It will end. You know, I'm doing what I'm doing, you're doing what you're doing. You know, this is in the middle of us. Are you with me? You know, and it will end. And we need to mentally get ready for that. The end does not mean the end of the world. It doesn't mean the end of my business, for sure. It doesn't mean the end of your business. It just means the end of this project. You know, I think that's a very important point to bear in mind. And all the other things you said in terms of how we approach it, it stems from that understanding. If we know the end, we're going to have to end eventually, then let's end with grace. You call it finesse. I said, no, I call it grace. Now let's end with grace, genuinely grace, gracefully, and maybe even with gratitude. Really. I'm so glad we got to work together. I mean, we've got to create genius together. Yes, it's come to an end for whatever reason, and if it is a criminal reason that someone stole your partner stole your money, you can even go to court if you really must. Go legal if you must, But if you document how you're going to deal with these things, then it becomes obvious how you're going to deal with it. Let's not fall out and burn the world down and burn the business down. That's what we must not do. That's what I take away. And Cyrus, I can't help saying it again. Like I've said it many times today. The emotions is what brings everything into a dark cloud. The emotions that people don't control. The hatred, the resentment.
That emotional regulation that you mentioned.
Area. But then, as you're saying, Cyrus, in the real world, we feel those emotions, and we will attach meanings to them, and then we will react based on the meanings that the story to tell ourselves, right? About this person, they must hate me. That's why they've done that. Rarely the case. Let's have a conversation, and let's aim to finish on a good note. That keeps the door open, like you said. Don't burn the bridges down. Yeah, it's hard to do, my friend. Don't get me wrong. This is why when Sarah says get a mediator, both of you get a mediator. I can see why. So you have a point there. Natalie, you've been there far too quiet for too long. I don't know whether your device.
No, I've managed to sort it out. I've been so productive, Annie, that my device is burning my hands.
It means I should let you go.
I kept getting kicked off. It's partially Restream and partially because of how constructive I am when that's you know me, Annie. I got my finger in all the pies. I was listening to what everyone was saying, and I was wondering if it was okay to share some mitigative tips, as well as some navigational and some closure tips, if that's okay with you and Cyrus and
please.
anyone else that might be on stage that I might not see.
200%.
Feel free, feel free.
Okay, well, I've observed, ideally, unless you have clearly stated conduct and contractual obligations and non-negotiables, you should not ever partner financially or in any other asset way with somebody when you're running a small to medium enterprise. That's the fastest way to lose your business. So it's always a good idea to engage with my senior colleagues, for instance, that are fully practicing lawyers and not long-time practicing law students of all different types of laws like I am. So they can actually advise you legally. But I'd say definitely, if you don't have agreements and contracts in place, then at the very least you should form a project or partnership charter that will work as a proxy legal agreement instead of expensive lawyer and accountancy fees. Secondly, agile with compassion. Yeah, so if we create the energy, the time and the space during our iteratives with our partners, collaborators, to express ourselves candidly and in a mindful way, that helps us all to work together because we're always up to speed in it within any given project moment. So if there's any friction, we can then address that head on instead of it cropping up when we're in a decisive moment in the project. Language. We just need to remember clarity, consistency, coherency, cohesion, and compassion. Yeah, and we need to, as Cyrus was pointing out, we need to be mindfully gracious, and we need to practice in humility, not just token humility. We need to acknowledge our own accountability within any given scenario, because there's a lot of components and we are a part of those scenarios. And oftentimes we're also the problem. It's not just someone else or another group of people. So I agree with what Cyrus was saying. And I would also build upon what he was saying. I don't think that people forever forget when they mess up. I think that some of us choose to graciously develop upon our communicative skills, whilst others choose to dwell on it and obsess and procrastinate. And so there's a difference. We all have the autonomy to choose, as Cyrus has stated, and other people that have spoken prior to me have stated. And yeah, just continuous personal professional development. Just because we don't like something definitely doesn't mean we shouldn't do it within this context. If anything, we should be exposing ourselves little by little to the things that we don't like doing, so that we can build our skills at a comfortable pace for us without applying too much pressure and extra cognitive load that perhaps we don't need. And yeah, the let's agree to disagree. The only thing I would say about that is, in some context, in quite a few contexts, legitimately it's used throughout history, and in present day times we use this in global development circles. I do think it is only contextual. I think if you come to an impasse, then saying let's agree to disagree is a Britishism, and it is very much it can come across as cold, and within context it can also come across as an amicable way to conclude that portion of the conversation and perhaps revisit it at another time when we've all had a chance to observe and reflect what's happened and what we're going to do next about that. And that's it. And I'm sorry that I spoke for so long. Thank you.
No, that's perfectly fine. Look, let me welcome the amazing Jackie. Jackie, thanks for joining us, because I was at Jackie's show last night. The platforms have been playing up for a while, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to do the show today because I pulled that show earlier as well. And when you can't even see your event page on LinkedIn, you sort of think, how's it going to happen? But when I joined Jackie's show last night, I saw how she handled the tech issues that she had, and literally, you know, unless you know what she was doing, you probably wouldn't even have a clue. Jackie, another great show, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining. Thank you for all you do on your shows. Look, I would love to do a show with you, Jackie, on relationships. I really want to have a conversation about relationships. Just to tell people the truth, Jackie, about relationships, the work it takes, the reality of the experience, the honeymoon, the end of the honeymoon, the honeymoon part of relationships, which is normally before we even start our relationship, right? It's done, it's gone. The problems start. The realities start. So, Jackie, if you're up for it, I'll DM you later and you can tell me yes or no. So I'd love to do it on my Wednesday show, being your authentic self. I think everything we talked about today comes into that. How do you end the collaborations? How do you handle those disagreements? How do you handle the arguments? How do you agree to let it go? How do you control your emotions? All those things all come into Jackie. And I think we need to talk about this with our friends. Hopefully you say yes, Jackie, and hopefully our friends will come and join the conversation too. Natalie, let me come back to you. Say great points. Look, having an agreement, expectations written down is the best thing that we need to do for our relationships, for sure. From there on, it really is, you called agile, with compassion, speaking with compassion. Again, we need to remember the love that we felt when we started this relationship. I know it's quickly forgotten. I know as soon as we have a Barney, it's forgotten. That's another Britishism, right? As you call it, Natalie. But we'll do well to remember that we are trying to do something together for a reason. Something brought us together, right? So let's learn to end conversations. First, let's learn to have the conversation. If we want to end the relationship, let's have the conversation, and then let's aim to approach it with compassion, with kindness, with love, because that has to be. If we're going to approach it with acrimony, then we're done. Whereas if we're going to approach these things with love, there's a way forward. And the way forward I want is simply for my bold idea to still be the priority for me anyway. So maybe not for my partner, but literally my business, my bold idea, my service, my customers, call it what you like, they must still be the priority. And so we must go forward. Jackie, thank you so much for being so kind. She says, yep. I will say, so look forward to the show with me and Jackie.
I do have the question. Oh, sorry.
Please, feel free. Now's your chance. What's your question? What's your question, Nat? I don't know. We haven't lost the very last one. Jackie, I'll come back to you for sure. Let's do it. Let's do it, Jackie. So I'll work out and I'll come to you a few dates. And then relationships, we can learn to handle relationships, we're away, right? Natalie, you still there? You may come back. You may come back in a second. Cyrus, if you got any last thing you want to say today, please feel free. Any last blessing you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. What I'm going to share now is something from 18th, 19th century, when in Europe, there was no before 18th century, around 18th, 17th, 18th century, there was no sewage system, and people would wash things in buckets, and they would get rid of the water afterwards. The dirty water afterwards. It could be dishes, it could be the pots, the dishes, and one of the things they washed in those buckets was their baby. Now, what would you do after you're done with that water? You're gonna throw it out, right? That's what they did.
I see where you're going instantly. Please
Then
carry on.
there was this saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So this originates from German and German language, and that saying is like over 500 years old, right? It was in a satirical book back then. So now we're using it today when we want to tell someone not to throw out of the window everything they've built together, right? Maybe when you want to end a relationship, perhaps you should just throw away a bit that could save the rest. When you go to doctors, they don't tell you, oh, there's a wound on the tip of your one of your toes. Let's amputate. They don't go from fixing the wound to turning you into an amputee, right? So there are stages to go through, right? And those stages are like sometimes mediation, sometimes opening your ears, closing your mouth, and just listening to the other party. Perhaps they could do the same thing for you, opening their ears, closing their mouth for a few moments and hear you out. Sometimes people just want to be heard, and then the problem isn't that fundamental, and that collaboration doesn't have to come to an end, right? So sometimes it doesn't have to, and it should carry on, right? So statistically, some of the collaborations that come to an end, they could have continued, but because of lack of understanding and lack of mutual ground, or at least acknowledging some mutual ground, the relationship comes to an end, and both parties are at loss, right? So perhaps before finishing things, try to find out if you can mend them, if you can mend that relationship and fix it. And the more capable you are at fixing things as an entrepreneur, the better outcomes you will get in your journey. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. Though we can again, I think the conversation is where we sow the seeds of carrying on. But I will say, as we mentioned, somewhere down the line, as you said, somewhere down the line, Cyrus, all collaborations have a time limit. They do. I truly believe they do, because you can't expect someone to drop what they're doing for our side gig forever. That's not going to happen, right? If it does happen, you're very lucky. I'm sure it can happen, but as I say, it's not the norm to expect this for us to carry on collaboration forever. There's many reasons I say that. I see now there's people who, they, you collaborate with them, and then when you make another friend, they get really upset. You're like, why are you so upset? Again, the conversation, right? Our project was only time limited in my mind, anyway. Maybe it comes back to the agreements that we create. Even then, we need to learn to end relationships amicably in a way that in a way that helps all of us. Natalie, you're still spinning in front of me. I don't know which one is you, right? Are you still there? Natalie? Oh, no. That text suddenly fell off the cliff. You've done very well now. I'm glad you got to speak. No, thank you so much. Michael, let me end with Michael's comment. Michael says the goblins were still stalking you, Natalie. Glad you overcame them today. Same here, Michael. I totally agree with you. I totally agree. Look, my friends, Cyrus, thank you. You're a star. Bill, you're a genius. And I say, we'll arrange that conversation, Bill. I'm tempted to bring it into next week's Africa Business Talks. And people might say, why do I want to bring Bill's book into Africa Business Talks? Because his book is about race history. And it invariably involves Africans and Black people, right? So, Bill, we'll talk later. I'll work it out for sure. So, Jackie, I will work out which date. I don't know where we are. Next Wednesday, it's Wednesday after that. I'll see what I can do, Jackie. Maybe tomorrow's probably too soon, I think. But I'll check later. Say we can do it in a couple of weeks' time, and talk about relationships and how to genuinely make them work. The reality of relationships, probably a better way to phrase it, right? Look, thank you, Natalie. Thank you, everyone who's given us your time today. Thank you, anyone who's watching my replay. Anyone who's on my YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. So I would love to see the numbers go up. Of course, I would. Just to have you there, it gives me joy. Look, we're back here again in 2 weeks' time on a different topic. In the what if-ery world, the world that says, rather than thinking, I can't, what if it goes wrong? What if this happens, that bad thing happens? Think instead about, what if it goes right? What if it goes very well? What if we create genius together? That's what the what if room is all about. Nat, I'm trying one more time because I'd love to let you have the last word.
I'm going to keep it short and simple because I'm pretty sure that Restream doesn't like my device. It's not just my device being hot. So I'm just going to reiterate what this entire event has everyone's been reflecting upon. It's about that clarity, that coherency, that cohesion, that compassion, and that consistency. So when we can be available for each other, we should fully show up. If we can't show up fully, then we should make the appropriate excuses or give the appropriate reasons, ideally, to our partners or our collaborators. That's the most respectful thing we can do for ourselves, and that's the most respectful thing we can do for them. And it also leaves those channels open for future collaboration. As Cyrus and Annie, us three, we're in and out of contact all the time, yet we partner whenever we're available to and whenever we're not working on projects that we respectively work on. And that works for us. We roll in, we roll out. And we're just like a wave that way, cresting the shoreline, yeah?
That's how we roll.
And that works for us. It doesn't always work for other people, but we've been very, very lucky to find each other and have that between ourselves. And sometimes waves don't align. Sometimes there's a bit of a clash.
Natalie,
and
to be honest,
that's okay.
To be honest, you scared me, Natalie. I thought you were going to talk about me. You said short and simple.
Yeah, I'm 5'2".
I'm 4 feet nothing.
Natalie has compassion. She's not a mean person, Sarah. So
I can be. Don't mistake me. I can be, and any can vouch that. He's met me. I'm small and feisty, and I've got something to back it up. And Annie's a big friendly giant.
That's me.
In comparison to me, Annie's a pussycat. I've got claws and teeth, and I will use them when I need to.
Yes, look, no, point well made, Natalie. I think the thing to remember is, as the video said, do unto others the way you like done to you, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated when collaborations end. That says it all, right? You want people to respect you. You want people to know.
Yes, and we shouldn't focus on the collaboration ending. We should focus more on the prospective collaborations, because this is about us learning from experiences that aren't so successful for us, and moving through that and understanding what we did that we need to do differently.
I agree. I agree. Look, my friends, I must let you go. I'm feeling bad keeping you this long now. 2 hours is a long time, and that's 2 valuable hours of your life I've just consumed. Hopefully, you got something out to listen to us. Look, work on implementing good strategies to bring those relationships that need to end to an end, to a pleasant end for everyone, as best you can. Thank you so much, my friends. I love you all. That truly, I mean that, for turning up for me and for sharing and for giving us your time. Natalie, Cyrus, do enjoy your evening. So you take care, my friends.
You too, Annie. Thank you so much. Natalie, have a nice evening. Everybody, have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
same. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Super.
And he sees you. He sees you. And he sees you. He sees you. He sees you. From the children with no voice in borrowed rooms, to the magazines that carry their truth. 25 years of the same